Hey yo, welcome back IB Development Economics students to this video lecture over the Gini coefficient and the Lorenz curve. The Gini coefficient and the Lorenz curve. So this concerns income inequality and inequality within a given country. So right now we have three hypothetical scenarios. We have country A, country B, and country C. Country A has two people. Okay, there's two people in country A. One person makes $1,000 a year. The other makes $99,000 a year. Now what's the average income? So we added two together, we got 100K divided by 2 equals 50K. Okay, so we get 50K as the average in 1 year. Now country B, once again, has two people, each person making 50K also. So 50 plus 50 is 100, divided by 2 is once again also 50K. Now, a third example, one person makes 0,000, which is 0. Another person makes 100,000. So 100,000 divided by 2 is still equal to 50K. So from these three country examples, we all get 50,000 as the average. So when we look at gross domestic product, gross national income, purchasing power parity, we all look at the average, right? The average GDP per capita. Okay, so we divide the population by the GDP. However, that doesn't show us anything. That doesn't show us the inequality. From country A, B, and C, we have anything from perfect equality to high inequality to perfect inequality. Now, that is when the Gini coefficient and the Lorenz curve comes into play. So imagine the perfect society where it's like country B. Okay, what's that country B? We have perfect equality in income. What would it look like? It will look something like this. It will look like a line with a slope or gradient of 1, which means each marginal increase in the y-axis will have the direct impact on the x-axis. So on the x-axis, we have the cumulative percentage of the population. On the y-axis, we have the cumulative percentage of income. So 10% of the population will have 10% of the income. 50% of the population will have 50% of the income. And the top 10% of the population will also only have 10% of the income. So this is the perfect equality where each individual in this country is making the same amount of money and is therefore represented in a perfectly slope with a gradient of 1. Okay, where all is perfect. However, in the real world, something looks more like this. In the real world, the Lorenz curve illustrates income inequality where, for example, the bottom 30% of the population only has 10%, the upper 50% has 70%, and the upwards 10% perhaps has this much income. And then it shows inequality. Now, so this curve, you see this bent curve, the further it deviates, okay, the further this bent curve deviates from the Gini, from the perfectly graphed and slope of gradient of 1, the greater the inequality. Now this area, okay, this area between the curve, okay, this area between the curve and this red line is what we call the Gini coefficient. Now you can use calculus to calculate it. However, it is not necessary for IB Development Economics students. You just have to know that this green area, the area between the Lorenz curve is this bent curve, and the slope that is equal to 1 is what we call the Gini coefficient. And how's the Gini coefficient represented? Okay, it could be represented between a number between 0 and 1. Okay, 1 is perfect inequality. So country C right here is a prime example of perfect inequality, where one person makes 100% of the income and the other person makes 0% of the income. Now, what will perfect inequality look like on this graph? If we have to graph perfect inequality, then it will look something like this. 0% of the population has 99% of the population has 0 income. However, 1% of the population has all of the income. So this yellow line right here will illustrate what a perfectly unequal society would look like. Now that's what country C is. Country B is a perfectly equal income distributed country, which will have the Gini coefficient of 0. Now, a country with the Gini coefficient of 0 will have the Lorenz curve that is equal to this red line right here with the slope and gradient of 1. So that is the income inequality and how to use Gini coefficient and how to use the Lorenz curve to illustrate set concepts. So I do hope this lecture is helpful, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.